let's take a look at the features we have in Network Watcher. So I'll click on Network Watcher. And then as we understood earlier, that Network Watcher has several tools that will help us monitor, diagnose, and look at the metrics, and also enable or disable logs in the Azure virtual network. So under the monitoring section, what we have is something called as Connection Monitor. This Connection Monitor is a feature of Network Watcher that can monitor communications between virtual machines and an endpoint. That endpoint could be a resource in Azure or could be a public endpoint. The Connection Monitor will monitor the communication at regular intervals and informs you about its reachability. It will also tell us about the latency and network topology changes between the virtual machine and the endpoint. For example, you may have a web server. Now in this case, I have already created a server called as prod server, and it's there under the virtual machine section. So if I go there must be two. Okay, I've got two servers. One is a prod server and a dev server. I'll go to connection monitoring, and then you can enumerate the virtual machines that we have in that region. So I'll select prod server. Then you can select a destination server as well. Let's select dev server here. Now we have the option to choose a port number. Let's assume that prod server is a web server that communicates with a database server called as dev server. Someone in your organization may, probably unknown to you, apply a custom route or a network security rule to the web server or the database, or probably the entire subnet. So if this endpoint, which is a database, becomes unreachable on that port, this connection monitor will inform you or notify you on this dashboard. You may see potential reasons. That could be a DNS name resolution issue, the CPU memory or firewall within the operating system of the VM, or the hop type of the custom route, or maybe security rule of the virtual machine preventing the communication to happen. Connection Monitor also provides the minimum, average, and maximum latency observed over time. In this case, I'll just type port number 1433, that's the database port, and just creating a scenario where prod server is communicating with the dev server, the database server, on 1433 port number. You have to just give a name here, database communication or something, and then finally click on add. It will take a minute to add it to the connection monitor, and then we'll be able to see the traffic between prod server and dev server on port number 1433. So connection monitor in the Network Watcher section helps us monitor the communication between two endpoints. In this case, we have two virtual machines. One is a prod server, another is a dev server monitoring on 1433, and we'll get constant data triggers between these two devices. At this point, there is no data available because we just created it. Once the polling interval starts, we'll see the data flowing into the connection monitor.